Hello everyone and welcome. Got a Bobcat T200, early 2000s, and I'm replacing a Pintle lever, and I'll crawl in there and show you in a minute. That's just kind of an awkward position to be in. But if you're replacing the Pintle lever, it's not really that hard to do. There are worse things. It's just this lever back here. Your steering lever is tied to this linkage, and then the linkage moves this Pintle lever back and forth on that square shaft on the hydrostat, and that's what activates everything. So the one that I just pulled off is pretty loose, and as you'll see here in a minute, this shaft is pretty well worn. But replacing this is not difficult really at all. Go over the instructions here from the book. There's this spring and all that back here. There's a nut in there. They say you're supposed to take the nut off, but the one I have, it's welded. So I just took the bolt loose, and all this stuff came loose pretty easy for me, you know, because it had been covered in oil fairly recently. So you get this off, and then the plate that goes across both of the Pintle levers should be loose. They don't mention it here in the book, but there's a hose or a pipe that comes up and then tees off for hydraulic stuff. And again, you'll see that here in a minute, but they don't mention that, so you can't actually remove this plate like they have right here. You can just remove the bolt and those bushings and stuff. And then these two bushings back here, they slide on, well, right here, they slide on those guide pins. Those bushings just kind of sit in there, and they say here that they may fall out if you're not careful. You can see it better here. There's these little slots, and they just sit in there. They're not held very well. So there's really just not much to this. Part numbers, there is your Pintle lever part number, and I'll put these in the description if you want. And then this is the bushing part number, and of course they are Bobcat parts because, well, you know, nothing but the best. So come over here. You can really see how bad the old one was. You will have to transfer a few things over. This bushing that goes in here, you'll need it, torsion bushing. And to get it in, just take a socket and hammer it in. I used a 3/4, fit over that just right. And initially to get started, I flipped it over. So I had a little more purchase on it with the female end of the socket. But, you know, I got it in there, and then just get it kind of, I don't know, just make it look like the old one, I guess. I'm not a Bobcat repairman. Not a professional one anyway. So you got to get the bushing in. Then there's also these cam rollers you will have to remove. There is they sit in there. Well, kind of do it like so. They sit in there, and then there's a washer that goes in, and then there's a flanged nut. So to get them off, you'll just need a 1/2-inch socket, and what did I end up using? And you'll need an Allen wrench. I ended up using the 3/16. Yeah, I ended up using the 3/16 Allen wrench and the 1/2-inch socket there. And I got the cams loose, and I'll pop them into the new lever here. And then the other thing that's important, this bolt here goes up through the torsion bushing like so. This is where the linkage attaches. This is threaded through that linkage rod. So you can't just knock this out. You kind of have to unscrew it. Your best bet, in my opinion, and I'll show you here in just a second, your best option is to just disconnect the linkage where it's bolted together and just take the short bar and the lever off, and then just separate the short bar from the lever. Break the nut that's on this bolt. Break that loose and get it off there if you want, or if you can. That'd make it a little easier, give you some flexibility at least. And then just pull the short bar that comes off this, pull that off, separate it at the linkage point, you know, so that you don't have to try and unthread this from underneath while this is in the machine on the hydrostat, because that's just, I'm sure you can do it, but that's kind of a pain in the ass, and there's just no need for you to work that hard. So let's crawl in there and take a look at the machine itself. Oh my gosh, this is what I don't like about the skid steer, the compact loader. It's the compactness of it. So here you can see that short bar, and it's threaded where it goes back over there, and your best bet is to separate it here. Now in my case, they didn't paint this one. In my case, they painted it down here where it all comes together. Sorry about the sun, by the way. And this side's nice and tight. It's okay. It looks like so, but the other side, I don't know what the hell was happening to this machine, because we haven't had this thing very long. It's had problems for most of the time we had it, and we had to send it to Bobcat to have them repair a hydrostat leak, which was somewhere in this area, a seal. I think it was the seal that goes around that shaft just on the other side, and they had to fix it. There was no, well, I mean, now I know there's a way I could get in here, but, you know, they had to fix it, and they didn't fix this lever, which I was kind of pissed off about, you know.
Watch your profanity.
Pardon my French. I'm going to get in trouble with YouTube if I don't watch it, but I don't know what the hell happened to the last people that had this machine. They were tearing up that lever like that, but good grief. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I don't know if the new lever is going to fix it or not, but I know the old one was pretty well worn out, so couldn't hurt. But you want to disconnect all that, and then like I said, this plate is just caught around that tube. There's no way you're going to get it off. Those are your slide pins where your bushings go. These are your little plastic guide bushings that slide in. Give me a second here. I'll see if I can turn this plate and I'll show you. Oh, that's hard to put all your weight on your knees and then turn stuff around, and then there. That's what they look like. So they just slide in like so, and they might stay, but they probably won't. So you're better off to just kind of pull them out. But that's what all is involved with getting this off and then putting it back on, just reverse of the removal procedure. And you've also got you also want to inspect, this is the pinch bolt that goes in the lever. This is a replacement that I put on. The one that was in there was eat up about right in this area. Or is this the one that was already in here? This may have been the one that was in here and I just dressed it. It's not bad, you know, but you're better off to just probably replace this. It is it's a 3/8 by 16 thread bolt, you know, about an inch and a quarter long or so. It's nothing fancy, but you might want to replace that while you're in here. And then, of course, the two bolts that hold your linkage together here for your lever, you might want to check those out and make sure they're good. Now, the other side has a lock nut here. I don't know if that's necessary. I really don't know what all the last people that had this thing did to it. I really don't. But, you know, it fits in with the rest of the equipment around here, so it's all good. But just check all that out. That's kind of what you got to work with. It's not really super fun to crawl in here all the time. It's hard on your knees. And then by the time I get done, this lever here should be nice and tight, just like this one. And that'll make everybody happy, because right now the damn thing's jerking around. You can't hardly steer it very well. It doesn't want to turn at a high speed, like at full throttle. If you try and turn, it just jerks around. It doesn't want to start because you can't get it in neutral back there, you know. So all sorts of problems. And then one last thing, when you're lifting the cab up, there's supposed to be a couple nuts on each side that hold it, but I mean, come on, the damn cab's heavy enough, it's never going to come up. You push it up, the cylinder here is supposed to lock it in place. But because I don't trust this, I never have. I mean, it locks in place and everything, and it says it'll hold it, but I don't like that. So I ran a strap back here, and I hooked it to the underside of the cab and just tensioned it down, not like a whole lot, but enough so that this is holding it primarily, and that cylinder is just a backup, because the last thing I need is for this cylinder to collapse, because I don't think I would survive if this cab fell on me, especially hunched over like that. I do not think I'd survive that, or if I did, I don't know that I'd want to. So, extra little bit of safety tip for you if you're interested, even though safety's overrated. But I can't afford critical injuries, so, you know, got to be careful. But that's really all that's involved. It's nothing fancy. I'm going to put all this back together, and hopefully that'll fix it. But I was afraid that shaft coming out of the hydrostat would be worn down like that. That's not something I can replace until we have another skid steer to take the engine out of this skid steer and all that. So if the lever will fix it, I'll call it good, but that's pretty much how you replace it. Nothing fancy. I'm gonna get back to it. It's a fairly nice day. Got to take advantage of it while I can. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll put all the resources and everything for the parts and whatnot in the description. And by the way, before I forget, if you're not aware, you can go to Bobcat and you can browse the complete parts, diagrams, and everything for pretty much any model of Bobcat. I know you can do this T200, and you can go back as far as a 743 diesel. I know you can do that, and you can browse all the parts, and it's pretty slick system. You know, they did a good job with it, but you can do that if you need, and then you can view the part numbers and all that stuff, and that'll help you pick your parts out and see how stuff's put together if you don't have a book. I managed to find one. I don't remember where I got it. If I do, I'll put it in the description. But having a book's nice, but if you don't, that parts diagram will give you enough information to do the job. So yeah, I'm gonna get off here now. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll just catch you in the next one. All right, before I put the camera away, I better show you guys what it looks like all put back together. Can you see that? I hope so, because I can't see if you can see it. So let me see if I get you in a little bit closer. The free travel is a lot less, you know, but it's not. There it grabs. Yeah, that's about the range of free travel it has, which isn't horrible, but then you come to this side and it's like that, and then this has a lot more in it. So the bigger problem is that shaft. So what I need to do, and I don't know how long it's going to take, what I need to do is take some shims and put on like this side. Well, if it's in the machine, it's facing like this. This is if you're facing the back of the skid steer. I need to put some shims in on this side and on this side, and that will pull these back two ones up tight against the shaft, and this will be tight up here, and it'll pivot okay, because what I did was the shaft that comes out of the hydrostat is flush with the top of the new lever here, okay? And I took up a lot of slack doing that, because I dropped the new one on, and hell, it was just as loose as this one. And getting a closer look at this one, it's worn, but it's not as bad as I thought, so I might be able to file it and salvage it. But I don't know how the hell you tear that up like that shaft that comes off the hydrostat. I really don't. But I'm gonna have to put some shims in it. For now, we gotta have this damn skid steer. The township doesn't come fix our hill, you know, and we need to be able to do that. And we got so many other things we have to have this skid steer for. It's just an essential piece of equipment to be able to pick stuff up, and we gotta have it. So that's a lot better than it was. We're going to see here in a little bit how it actually steers, if it's significantly better. If it's not good enough, then I'll have to do the shims quicker than I thought. But I need some time to think of something, because I really don't know what to use. So there will be a separate video on the shimming of this. And you might wonder, well, why not just replace that shaft that comes out of the hydrostat? Well, you got to take the hydrostat out of the machine, and to do that, you have to pull the engine. Pretty much. So, I mean, I suppose. No, you got to pull the motor. Ain't no way. I mean, sure, you could probably get it out, but then how are you gonna get it back in? That's the other thing you got to think about. I could get it out of there right now, but getting it back in, man, because that whole thing's like 150 pounds at least. It's not light, so I don't know. We'll just shim it. I love shims. Just got to think of something metal that's not gonna deform. I don't know, but yeah, that's what it looks like. I'll put back together, and that was the real culprit, is that shaft. But this lever was definitely getting some wear on it. I don't think we wasted our money necessarily, because that did help. Because this, I never would have been able to just lift up and make that shaft flush with this lever and tighten it. This one would not have worked for that. So we can at least run it for a while. So all right, now the video's over. If I end up doing more work on this, I will make a separate video if I can. And I'll post a link to it down below. So thank you guys. That's all.